Three, two, one. Welcome everybody to week 3 of 8 weeks to director. Tonight we're going to be talking about inviting, connecting, and building relationships. One of the most important skills that we can learn. And here is our training team tonight with Kristen Jakubowski, Senior Executive, Senior Director Francine Roling. However, I'm going to have to change that because in a few days she's going to be a new coordinator. And Director Colette Weese, who is a brand new director and has had such amazing growth and has been so successful in this process of inviting that we had to bring her in to share what she is doing, and I'll tell you her story in just a little bit. I want to remind everybody that our objective for this course is at the end of our 8 weeks, it's our hope that everyone who is attending will have been able to generate 2,000 PV and advance to the rank of new director by developing a customer base of about 20 to 30 members and identifying 3 potential business partners. So let's just frame this a little bit. This is our 3rd week, so by now we've set up our businesses, our websites, our mobile app, all the mechanics of our business. Last week, Katie and her team outlined a few do's and don'ts regarding social media, which we wanted to cover early on in the course because social media can be a very powerful way to begin to introduce to your friends that you've started a new business, and there's kind of a good way to do it, and then there's some things that we wanted to make sure didn't trip us up, so that's why we covered that early on. And then we hope by now that you've had a chance to cruise around in the Shaklee websites, in Facebook, have seen some of the stories, Shaklee.tv, so that you feel by now that you know a bit about the Shaklee company, about Roger Barnett, his vision for the future and for the company, about the remarkable products and the Shaklee difference in science, the compensation plan, and hopefully have heard the stories of some of our leaders, which are really very powerful. And so I think it's one of the biggest draws of our business is the people that we get to work with as colleagues. And so now we are ready to set in motion our plan to generate 1,000 PV in your first month. And so we're ready to launch our business, and that begins by inviting people to see stuff. So we want to start with our objective tonight. Sometimes we have several objectives in the evening, but tonight there's just one, and that is to review the principles of inviting, connecting, and building relationships, because that is what our business is all about. We live at a time when, because of technology and because of social media, our customers and our business partners are bombarded with sales pitches. And they get it on Facebook, they get it on email, I get so many robocalls, and that's why we're very careful to never fall into a sales pitch kind of dialogue with people. And instead, we want to always be authentic and honest with people. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, offering people information that they will appreciate because it's honest and it's open and it's authentic. And we have some of the best people that we could find to share that information with you tonight, that with the intention of building lifelong customers and dedicated business partners as well. So to get us started, we want to talk about the most effective events and appointments that we have found to be helpful for all of us. And Kristen, I think that one is yours, right? Whoops.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, thanks, Barb. That was such a great intro, and I really do feel very strongly and passionate about this topic because it is really the foundation of everything we do in this type of business. And I think you're right, Barb, that the minute that we stray from this, it begins to sound salesy and it's not as effective or enticing. So let's talk about some effective events to which we have the opportunity to invite guests to. And You know, this list could go on and on, but we really wanted to break it down a little bit into individual appointments. That would be obviously in person, one-to-one, and by phone, video conferencing calls such as this, Zoom, which really gives us the opportunity to reach people who are not local to us, which is just wonderful because we want to build global businesses. And that would include health chats, business benefits, types of get-togethers, and really being creative too with these types of events is going to be extremely helpful for you to attract people. In-home events are always going to be something that we encourage. They are the cornerstone of how these businesses were built. And I think that they do lend to a lot of value. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later. Interactive Facebook group and events, these have really boomed. And they've changed even from a couple years ago. But what's fun is that social media is always evolving, and you can always find a way to, make these events work for how social media is changing. So 5-day resets, flat tummy challenges, sugar detoxes, children's health events, things like that. And then 3-way calls are always valuable. Getting a third party onto a call is always important. Area, regional, and global events. Those are when corporate comes in or when you're doing bigger LYL type events, those are really, really valuable for attracting new people. So as we talked about, events really run the gamut, and we wanted to run through some of them with you, and we're not going to get too much into detail, but we really want to take you through how events are evolving and what's working right now. So obviously, whenever you start your business, a grand opening is a great idea, a business launch event. I really recommend too that even if you are somewhat into your business, you can do a relaunch or a kind of a re-grand opening to get people back into the loop and back into what you're doing in your business. Healthy home, healthy you, that's obviously Get Clean. Wine, Women, and Wellness. These types of events are wonderful for community, to get people together to talk about like topics and have conversations that are more candid and really lead them into that trust building that we do. And that's what really, lends to the foundation of a relationship, and therefore making you seem much more genuine than if you were to push products right from the get-go. Mimosas, masks, and meditation, make and takes. I actually just did a make and take, and this is kind of, a lot of people have taken off on this. It's the idea of just getting some people into your home for a quick, small nominal fee. We charge $10, and we had people come into my home and make basic H cleaner and some protein puppy chow, which incidentally is not for dogs. It is a snack. I actually had someone come in thinking it was for their dog, but she was interested nonetheless, let me tell you. And they leave with those products and get to go home, and they get to use them within their own home. And it really is a great way to introduce new product lines to people. LYL events are on the rise. Taking some people to a restaurant, a local bar, nail salons, having these more social events outside of your home are really, really working right now. Somebody local here just had some friends at a pizza shop and just ended up, paying for one pizza, and everyone got their own drink, and they called it Slice on Shackley, and they just talked about the business, and it was just very, very effective. Virtual events are actually. Oh yeah,
I'm sorry, because I was just going to say, for people who may not be aware, LYL stands for Love Your Life, or Look Younger Longer, or Live Younger Longer. So you can adapt it or do all three in one evening. So it's really a wonderful kind of a slogan that we have now that really fits us nicely. I also want to mention, I love what you said about grand openings and business launch events do not only have to be at the beginning of your business. It's nice to do member update appointments and member update events as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just it, Barb. These are so versatile that you can, you're really not limited to what's on this list. You're only limited by your own creativity and imagination. And that's what's so fun about these, I think. So virtual events, let's get back to that, because those are, again, something that is on the rise because they are done from home. And as we know, people's schedules are just getting busier and busier, and we still want to serve them and give them information and educate. But sometimes we have to do that from the comfort of their own home. And so you send a prospect some product, like let's say one of the new masks, and you get it to them, and then you have a planned time to meet on Zoom, and you run through how to put the mask on as if they are in your home, and as if they are sitting right next to you, and you tell them the benefits, and you can share information, you can share documents and photos and before and afters, and it's really nice and it's fun, and it's a great way to get people involved, like I said, from their own home.
Kristen, may I say just one more thing about that too? It's not only that people are busy, it's that, like you said earlier, this is a global business. And I know for our team, we don't have a lot of pockets of local people. You know, I live 2 hours away from my closest builder. So it's a matter too of still being able to support one another and get together with customers that may live in other states. So it's great for that too. It still builds that sense of community even when you can't be close together.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Other topics would include children's health. Somebody gave us this topic, hot mamas, natural approach to menopause. So getting creative. And then lastly, customer appreciation events are always a very valued time together. And whether you do that in home or outside of the home, I mean, they're just very successful. It's a way to give back to your community that's supporting you. And we just did one, and 5 of us leaders kind of teamed up and did it. And we had over 60 people attend. So it was very, very successful.
Amazing. Yeah, that was amazing. So we want to show you also, as we're now beginning to build your businesses, we want to keep in front of us the concept about creating a 2,000 PV plan. And it begins with these events that Kristen just outlined. And what we do when we create a 2,000 PV plan is we make estimates of the PV that will be generated by the various activities. So generally speaking, 4 to 5 group events is going to generate about 1,000 PV. Individual appointments also you can see, and so there we wanted you just to see that this is important to have a plan and to do the projections, because it shows you how we calculate the kind of effort that it will take in order to get to 2,000 PV. So it's a combination of all the things that Kristen just ran through. We just added some PV to them. So now we want to get into the actual principles of inviting. And I think now, Becky, we go over to, or Francine.
Becky's protege.
Right, Becky's protege. Francine, we're going to go over to you.
Yes, thank you. Well, let's just take a moment and look at this. Inviting is a process, not an email. Let's write that down. Tattoo that on your head. We need to get this through our minds, because it's so easy with all the technology we have today to shoot an email to somebody, to shoot them a text, to do a Facebook message. It's so quick and easy, but it is not a skill, and it's not something that builds relationships. And when we get to the crux of the matter here, this business, what we do every day is about building relationships and customer care, and the care comes before the customer. So we need to figure out ways to really connect with people, and you can't truly connect with people on an email. People delete emails. We don't want to be deleted. We want to have a lasting relationship with somebody. So this next slide shows us that when we're inviting to events, it really is a process. So a process is a matter of steps, and there happen to be 5 steps here, but I want to have you really think about the fact that before we even get to inviting somebody to a Shackley event, or to take a look at a product, or to come to a presentation, again, it's about the relationship. So we're going to be inviting them to be friends, to get to know one another. I was just talking to somebody on my team today and suggested that she get involved in some things that maybe aren't things she's currently doing, because it's all about always meeting new people and opening ourselves up to learning new things, new people, again, establishing those relationships. So when we get to know them, and we're going to talk about these in more detail, how we actually get to know people, but when we get to know them, when we get to know what's important to them, when we get to know the things that they're concerned about, what's going on in their family, then it just simply makes more sense that we invite them to some things that we have going on with our businesses, because then it becomes about them and not about us. And one of the biggest fears that we have is that we're bothering people or we're asking them to do us a favor. And if you don't take the time to form a relationship with someone, that is true. We are bothering them or we're asking them to do us a favor. But when we know that, they have, they're in trouble with their work because they've already blown through all their sick days because their child has been sick so many times this year, and they're really worried about that. And we can invite them and share with them about things that maybe we've done or our friend has done to help boost their child's immune system, then that becomes a service to them. So let's get back to this, and we'll talk more about those details in a little bit, but we're always going to ask permission to send any type of invitation. Again, this is a permission marketing business. We don't want to just be like those people on television just spewing out information about the newest, latest, greatest products. We're going to ask them if they're interested, if we can share something with them. When you ask permission and then you do it, you are living up to your word, and you're showing them that you're a trustworthy person because you're simply following up with what you said you were going to do. If you just start sending information out when they didn't expect it or they didn't want it, then you're spamming somebody. So there really is a difference, and that first step is so important, asking permission. And then actually sending the invite. That's important too. You don't want to establish a relationship and ask permission and then not follow through, because again, that you're always branding yourself. And so whether you follow through with something or don't follow through with something, you're making an impression about yourself in that person's mind. So make sure you send it. Following up for the response, it's kind of is an RSVP business too. So just because you have somebody's permission and you send an invite, that doesn't mean that they're actually going to come or that they understood what you were talking about the first time, or they understand how to get on the Zoom event or where the LYL is going to be located. So following up with them, that's just great customer service. As Kristen said, we live in a busy world, and even if somebody has the best of intentions, how often have you forgotten something that you committed to doing? So when somebody follows up with a response, that's just another matter of being a great servant to your customer. Multiple contacts are helpful, and even sending teasers. So even though it may be an event that's going to be held in person, you could do some cute little things on Facebook or, texting people, so excited to see you tomorrow night, those types of little reminders. And then the personal reminder the night before. Again, this is really important because people are busy, and the night before too is important. Don't think that just because you haven't already gone through these steps and your event is tomorrow that you can't do those. You really can. Actually, sometimes some of the best invites are the ones that are done the night or 2 days before, because then somebody truly does know what their schedule is and they know if they're going to be free or not. So don't use that as an excuse not to invite somebody to something.
I always like what our friend Lisa Anderson would do the night before, the day before. She doesn't want to talk to them directly. She likes to text them or leave an email, and she says, she tells them how much it means to her that they are coming. So she thanks them. So she would say, Mary, I just wanted to remind you about the meetings tomorrow night. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming and helping support me in my business, but also to learn about some of the things that have been so helpful for me, or whatever your why is. We'll get to that in a second. But it's, I like, and you don't want to talk to them. You just want to leave it so that they know that it means a lot to you for them to be there. I thought it's just a really nice gesture. So let's take them one by one now. Step one, Kristen.
Yeah, Barb, and just to piggyback off of what you said, I love saying, I'm glad that I know I can count on you to
Mm-hmm.
be at my event, because I think that that puts value in the friendship,
Mhm.
like we're saying, and in the
Very good.
relationship that you've built.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about this 5-step process in a little more detail. And Francine really did a great job overviewing. So when we talk about step 1, we want to make sure we're serving. Service is number 1. And any way we can go about doing that and making sure it's about others is going to help you in the inviting process. It actually also feels really good. You will know if you are not inviting correctly, because it will feel strange, and it will feel like Francine said, like we're asking them to do us a favor, and that's not it. So what's in it for them? Why did they come to your mind? And really use the words that you would use if you had them face to face. A lot of my team often asks, well, what did you say? Can I see your text message, or can I see what you said? And although we do love to share that information to generate ideas, you really need to speak from your heart and based off the conversations you've had with this person in prior communications. And just really making sure that they know that you have them and their best interest at heart and on your mind. So asking a lot of questions. This is in a day-to-day type of relationship thing. And, this is all of our communications that we have where, we'll talk about that next, but, ask some questions and ask how their children are doing, and don't cut directly to the chase all the time. Just be a person who is interesting, and ask them things so that then they are more invested in you. Less is always more when you are inviting. And I think that we touched on that a little bit, like just giving enough information and then asking, can I share the invite with you, or can I share more information with you about this? That asking permission is critical. And here's some word tracks too. I don't know if this would be of interest to you or not. This may or maybe for somebody may I show it to you and you can decide. I love doing that. Practicing active listening skills and asking permission, of course.
Okay, step
So,
2.
Step 2, here are your avenues for inviting. And, I do think that it bears mentioning that this is not the most important step, people. Like, it's just not. Communicating is great, and all these different avenues are great. But when it comes down to brass tacks, getting in touch with people face to face or on the phone is always the best, in my opinion. But we do have the power of social media, and we do encourage you to use that. So Facebook, Instagram posts, I'm not a big fan of posting invites as a general Facebook post. If I do that, I generally do it the day before or the day of the event, like Francine is saying, because you can still generate last minute interest. But I find that more personal is much more successful. Sending emails, but again, Facebook messaging, personal, all of those messaging type things, please remember that those get looked at and pushed to the side. Looked at, pushed to the side. So just because somebody hasn't responded to your post or your email or your message, it doesn't mean that they haven't seen it or they haven't intended to get back to you. There's a lot that can be left in the interpretation when you're using virtual methods. And so that's why it's always important to follow up after you've sent a message or after you've sent an email to say, hey, did you get my message or did you get my email? And you'll be surprised at how many people will say, oh my gosh, yes, I looked at it and I meant to reply to you and I'm so sorry that I haven't. So this really is a very tedious but necessary process because we are all working at such a fast pace and there's a lot of noise in our environments now. And then once again, people respond to why we are inviting them more than what we are inviting them to. So making sure they know what's in it for them, saying something like, I thought of you because the last time we talked, I remember you talking about how your children have been chronically sick. And when I saw this topic come up, oh, you were the first one that came to my mind. You know, that is sweet. And that is something that most people will feel very touched by. So making sure we really understand and help them to understand why we want them to be there and what's in it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Francine.
Really nice, Kristen. So breaking that down a little bit more, how we apply communication skills to the invite, let's talk for a minute about what communication is. Communication isn't a presentation like what we're modeling for you tonight. Communication is actually a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding. So to reach mutual understanding and to have a two-way process, we're talking about talking and we're talking about listening. So when we're communicating with somebody, one of the best things that we can do, and this is something that we can continue to get better at the longer we do this business, or the longer we just look for ways and reasons to have relationships with people, is to ask questions. People love to talk about themselves, and they don't often have an opportunity to do that. A lot of the people who we're going to be talking to in this business, you know, not to stereotype, but often we talk to moms, and, you know, I love being a mom. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life, but rarely did my kids ask me how my day was or how I was feeling or, you know, what's new. It's just not what they do. That's not their job. So to have somebody else, you know, ask them about how things are going and how the potty training's coming along and how the kids' health is and blah, 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 blah. That's really refreshing to be able to just have a conversation with somebody. And when we're discovering that, we're learning things about this person. We're learning different things about them that we may be able to offer resources for later on. But again, we're also establishing a relationship because we're showing our care and our concern. We're taking the time to get to know them as a person. And that's what we want to do. Why is this important to them? When we do invite them, again, we're going to go back to that information that we learned when we were asking questions. And as Kristen said, you know, maybe it's somebody who's had a chronically ill child and we're having a children's health event. Well, they're the first person we thought of because we remembered that. And it's just, it's wonderful. It's just lovely to be remembered. People want to be heard. People want to be understood. And I think it's funny that we sometimes shy away from inviting people to things, because when we do it in the right way, when we're doing it because we're looking out for a need that we know they have and that we thought of them, we really are offering them a gift. We're offering them a gift that we value them, that we remember things that are important to them, and that we want to help them. Those are gifts. I would be touched if somebody remembered something about me and came back to me later on to try to help me with a need that I had. So remember that we're offering people a gift. So this next slide then gets a little more to the crux of that.
You want to mention that, so that there, the three elements are asking questions, discovering needs. Second, it's always letting people respond. This is that Simon Sinek thing. I probably should have put the quote in here. Mm-hmm. People don't buy what we sell. They buy why we sell it.
Exactly.
And they don't buy what we do. They buy why we do it. And then the last one was affirming, acknowledging, and appreciating, but we'll get into that in 1 second.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Here you go.
Right. And that all goes back to, we don't have to be fancy with how we do it. We don't have to have the slickest Facebook post or the prettiest Instagram picture. You know, we just have to be genuine and authentic. That's what resonates with people. They don't want us to be a sleazy salesperson. They want us to be us. And so, so discovering their needs, you know, this is where you can bring up something that you remembered them telling you. Mary, you mentioned you have allergies. Can you tell me more about that? You know, I was asking because I used to really struggle with allergies too. Did I ever tell you about the time that the lifeguard at the YMCA had to save me because they thought I was drowning, but I was really just having a coughing fit? Did I ever? And open-ended questions is my advice here. Do you know what it's like when your kids come home from school and you ask them what kind of day they had? Fine. Good. What happened? Nothing. What did you learn? Nothing. So that, you know, people are just going to do that. They're just going to give you one-word answers. So you mentioned you have allergies. Tell me about that. So what type of symptoms did you had? How does that affect you? You know, is it more of a fall thing or a spring thing? Just dig down. Somebody, I don't remember now if it was Roland Osterhaus or Richard Bliss Brooke or perhaps both of them, but they said to try to play a game with yourself and get to where you're asking 7 questions each time you have a conversation with somebody, because then you're getting more to the heart of the matter too. You're not asking just kind of the basic questions. You're really finding out the details, and the more details, the more information you have, the more kinds of resources that you can share with people. And we shouldn't assume. And when we don't ask enough questions, sometimes we leave with assumptions. We think we know enough information about it, and it may not be what we're thinking at all. So just continuing to ask questions. Referrals too. You know, when we're talking about Mary and her allergies, perhaps Mary also knows, you know, that her next door neighbor and her coworker and her husband perhaps have those allergies too, because what happens is when we have something going on in our lives, we tend to talk to other people who have that same issue, don't we? And so once you've established a relationship with Mary, Mary's going to trust you with her friends and her family. And so it's a perfect time to ask. And just from a business standpoint too, you know, this becomes a reason to have an event. So maybe Mary, we found out enough to know that Mary's had allergies. She suffered with allergies her whole life, and she knows 3 or 4 people who have these allergy issues too, and nobody knows what to do about it, but it's driving them all crazy. Well, maybe Mary would like to host an event, and all these people can come, and you could talk about everybody's allergies and offer suggestions. And then, oh, by the way, Mary, did you know that you can have your products paid for just by hosting these people in your home? So not only does it become an invite for Mary as a potential customer, but it also becomes an invite for Mary to be a potential business builder later on down the road.
Very nice.
And Francine, as well, this happens on Facebook a lot. I don't know if anybody's witnessed this, or maybe it's just me, but somebody will post about something that's ailing them or their children. Mm-hmm. And then they get a flood of responses that say, oh my gosh, me too. Oh yeah. And allergies is one that comes up a lot. And people just kind of chime in one after the other after the other. And what I have done in the past is I've gotten a hold of the person, you know, obviously I'm friends with them on Facebook, the person who posted, now privately, mm-hmm. not on the thread, but privately, and do that same kind of thing and say, hey, you know what? I know we've talked about this before, but look at all these people that they're all your friends and they're all saying the same thing. Wow, gosh, could you imagine if we could get them all in the same room and I could just give you guys all the information at one time. So that's always something to keep an eye out for.
That's
very
great.
Nice.
Yes. Nice. And I like the private, going back, you know, taking it off those threads is so important. And that's a great idea, Kristen. Good. And what you did is just actually gave a little more information about this, the why. The why is always about them. Remember, always make it about them. You know, people don't always want to be doing you favors, but they want answers to the things that they're dealing with. So third-party references are a great way to provide more validity about what you're sharing, and it takes it off you. It takes it off you needing to be the expert. It takes it off you having to know all the answers, but it also shows them that you were, again, thinking about them. Maybe you were reading a journal article, or you heard a speaker, or you listened to a podcast, and it reminded you of a conversation that you had with that person. And so when it comes time to having an event, really be, I don't know if strategic is the right word, but think about people that it might really benefit. For instance, many of you are familiar with Dr. Doris Rapp. She's a pediatric allergist who's done a lot of work on how chemicals affect children, and many of you have seen the handwriting sample of the child who was exposed to chemicals in the daycare, and then when the chemicals were removed. Well, I bought her book this summer, and I spent some time reading it. And so some of my partners and I put together a healthy home event. And I intentionally invited attorneys who are guardian ad litems. I invited foster parents. I invited a juvenile court judge. I invited teachers and administrators, people that I hadn't reached out to before. And I said, hey, I think this might really be of interest to you because I know you work with a lot of kids who have behavior problems or on medication. And I just read this book by this doctor who has this research to show that kids are being medicated for things that aren't always behavior issues in the way we think they are. And had great attendance at those events, lots of new customers. And
Nice.
so anyway, it was about them. It was about things I knew they were interested in. And then, so of course they wanted to come.
But you told them why you thought of them, why you invited them. And you used the third party of you were reading the book. I like that example. That's good.
Yeah.
And I found this one. This was just in 2 weeks ago in the New York Times Magazine. Look at the headlines of it. Got it right here. It says, the second shift, what teachers do to pay their bills.
Wow.
And the front of it, this is the front page of the New York Times Magazine. Teachers just want to teach, but the classroom has become a battleground. So can you imagine reading that and then contacting teachers that we know and say, I just was reading this article that said these things, and tell me about what is it like in the classroom today? Tell me about teachers. And you can do it with anything, but it's so genuine. Excellent examples. Okay.
All right, this is my very favorite because this is where we just really get to love on people more and just show them that we really do care about them. We appreciate them. We see them. And this, again, is about the customer care before they are the customer. This is about, it's almost like you're courting people. But you're doing it with all the good intentions. You know, you're just trying to be a good friend and a good person. I send so many cards each month, birthday cards, I'm sorry, you know, your parents passed away cards, or congratulations on your child graduating card, or I saw that your son, you know, was the MVP of the football game. Anything, that stuff goes in the mail. My team can tell you they often get cards and notes and affirmations and all kinds of things from me in the mail because it's just important. People don't have enough good things told about them to them often. So it's important to acknowledge and appreciate them. And my advice here is just being yourself, just being authentic. So if you need to use one of these conversation starters, great, use it. I thought of you because, or I so admire you because, you know, you just never give up on your kids. I know things have been hard lately, but I just see how devoted you are to them. I will even often tell people when I approach them about the business, you know, I don't even know why I'm calling you, but your name has come to my mind and I just can't stop thinking about you. And I just am honest with them and we'll have a conversation. Often I reach out to people, some of you may know, for many years I was a single mom and I know how hard that is. And so I'll reach out to other single moms, you know, when it's back to school time, because I know it's a really expensive time of year, or summer, because then you have to figure out, you know, what you're going to do with your kids if you're working. And that's a great time to share about some of the benefits of the business. I have even had people thank me for inviting them to things and reaching out to them. One of the things I like to do if I can't get somebody on the phone, I'll make a video for them and then text them the video. And I had a mom who has some special needs children, and she has saved that video. That video was just me telling her why I would love to work with her, what I admired about her. And she said she saves that, and on hard days, she watches that video. So again, I think this inviting that we get to do, I think it is a gift for ourselves and for other people, and we should just embrace it and do as much of it as we can.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you, team, for all these great principles of inviting. And now we want to take these principles and give you some good application with our newest director, Colette Weese, who you are about to meet. And I want to tell you, one of the reasons we asked Colette to join us is because she was just introduced to Shaklee in March as a customer, and by May, she was a director with 2,000 PV, and by June, the very next month, she was at 4,000, and by July, she was at 6,000. And she just is a natural at this, and this exactly these principles that Kristen and Francine have been talking about. She has put into action, and I want you to see the results that she's gotten. So thank you for joining us, Colette. Tell us about some of your events and how you've been inviting folks.
So with the events that I've done with the team, I just really tried to focus on diversifying the events and making them fit the different groups of people in my network and my friends. So there would be an event that was of interest, so that I could genuinely invite to them, let them know why I was inviting them and what made me think of them, and do the 5 steps you guys had talked about. I'm really big on the follow-up piece and reminding, because and I had to change my mindset on that. I definitely had to shift my mindset, because I at first was thinking that I was bothering people or annoying them, especially if I hadn't heard back. And then I got to thinking, you know what, all the time. I mean, my mom will text me and I'll be in the middle of something and then I don't get back to her. And the next thing I know, it's 11 o'clock. So I shifted my mindset to know that people need reminders. But with the events, we did a women's wellness and summer stress event at a local Mexican restaurant. It was great because the chips and salsa are free. We bought a couple pitchers of margaritas, and it was very informal. We just sat down, everyone chatted and got to know each other. And then we just asked the simple question of, what is one thing you would change about your health? I did an event here at my house for moms with little kids, and invited them to come over with their kids. The kids all played, and then we just did a very informal presentation on the children's supplements and items, and then also the Get Clean. We did an event here at my house I have a friend who is a massage therapist. So I contacted her and asked her if she would want to come do massages, and for free, but like 5-minute massages, but it would then give her a new audience of people to introduce her business to. And she had her business cards and everything. And then we presented on women's wellness and had wine, and everyone had a great time. Our whole team did a Shackley 7 event after Global, where we had the 7 new products and stations. And it was super fun. We did that also at the Mexican restaurant. Just had some appetizers. We did, I don't have a graphic for it, but we did a muffins and mimosas event for the youth line. So just trying to keep the events applicable to my friends and to my network and the people that I would invite to. I'm just going to go from there.
But take a look at the numbers who attended. That's why I wanted to put him on there. She had 18 at the massage event, 16 at the launch event. And then, so how you get people there is interesting to us. So what was it that you said that you got such great turnout?
Well, I would just usually call people or send them messages. Well, I would always ask for permission first. So I would say, hey, I'm going to be having this event. I was thinking of you because of whatever the case was. Would you like me to send you the invitation? And then I never had someone say, no, don't send it to me. And then I would send it to them. And then I would follow up with them again a few days later about kind of restating why I was inviting them, hoping that they would be able to make it. And then when they did RSVP back that they were able to make it, when I would send a follow-up message again before the event, I would let them know how excited I am that they're coming, that I understand that time is busy and it means a lot to me that they're taking time out, and that I know it will be valuable for them, or a fun experience or educational or whatever the circumstances may be.
So each of the steps that Francine and Kristen just outlined is exactly what you did, and this is the results that you got. I'm very impressed. Okay, you ready for your next slide?
Yes.
Okay.
So it probably should be shared a little bit that I grew up with a family business. My parents started a Christmas tree farm when I was a young kid. And we worked at the tree farm my whole entire life. It's what put us through college. And so my dad is definitely of the old school mindset, and our customers are everything to our business. I mean, and he will say, without our customers, we don't have a business. So customer care is number one in being connected to our customers. So my dad, even if it's negative 13 degrees, he stands in the driveway and he greets every single car that pulls in to come to our farm. And it's long days. And we try to tell him, Dad, you don't, I mean, most of the people, the repeat customers, and he's like, no, I want them to see that I appreciate them coming. So I was raised with this mentality that, you need to pour into your customers and really show that you care. But also, I was raised in a family that was not big on technology, which is probably why I'm a little bit of a dinosaur myself with it. And I loved last week's presentation from Katie and everything, because there's a lot that I need to learn about all of it. But I think at the core of humans, we need connection and community. So I found this quote just to really ring true to my mindset, that the need for connection and community is primal, as fundamental as the need of air, water, and food. And I just think, so what's leading to is that my go-to, typically besides events, is face-to-face meetings. And I'm very much so about kind of bringing back the good old days. So I think that especially in the world of social media, people are yearning for personal connection and having conversations and seeing one another. And and even when I think of Shackley's roots, it's exactly what Dr. Shackley did. And then when it became too much for him to do, he had other people do it with him. And so I've tried to stay true to my roots and Shackley's roots in doing this, and taking the time to really meet with people, and just believing in the power of personal connections. And when we meet with people and we're looking at them face to face and having conversations and asking them questions and genuinely showing that we care for them, they can feel that. And I feel that they can really feel that and get that more from us on a personal level than just seeing something on a screen from us. And your heart shows when you're with someone in person. So I also just try to make my face-to-face meetings fit the person who I'm meeting with, so that it's comfortable for them. So if it's another mom that I know she would love to just get out of the house and get a cup of coffee and is able to do that, then that's what we'll do. Or if it's someone who I know is already enjoying working out or wanting to be healthier, then maybe we'll go for a walk or a run. Or if it's a mom who the only opportunity that we're going to have to meet is she brings her kids over and we let the kids play and chat, then that's what we do too. And I was thinking about why we've, as a society, gotten away from doing things as much face-to-face. And I was thinking that I think a lot of it has to do with fear. And this is just my personal opinion, because it is really putting yourself out there to be rejected face-to-face. It's much easier to just not have someone comment on something or not respond back to a message you've sent. But when you meet with them personally and they say, yeah, thanks, thanks for letting me know, but I'm not interested right now, it hurts a little bit. But I think when we show them that we're still going to care for them and be a resource and an advocate, and that we take that rejection with grace, I think that we'll continue to be someone that they'll come back to in the future or refer someone to.
Excellent.
Hey, Barb, I did want to say that I've done that recently. There was a woman named Donna who was on my chicken list, and I met her probably 7 years ago in cross country with one of my kids, and she was just the bomb mom. She was the head of the cross country whatever, organized who brought apples and like all that stuff. And she was on my chicken list because she had it all together, and she had 2 girls and a boy, and her youngest was in 8th grade, and here I was like, I just thought she was really cool, and I was a little bit intimidated by her, and she didn't have a real big personality, but I just didn't know her, and I had no way to bump into her ever or anything, but I would recognize her here and there. She would comment on some things on my Facebook. Her kids were really super smart and got all the cords on their graduation gowns, and I was so envious of her, and I'm such a failure as a mom because my kids don't have that. And I just had all this negative messages running in my head, and I bumped into her 3 or 4 times in the last couple of weeks at the health club, like at the water station or just passing through. And I'm like, oh, hey, Donna. Oh, hey, Donna. I said, hey, we should get together sometime. And she said, I would really like that. So I went home and I texted her, or she texted me and said, hey, it was good to see you today. I'm glad that you asked me to get together. When can we do that? And I said, well, let's meet for tea. And she said, okay, how about on Monday? And she sent me like a meetup thing. Like, she's really organized. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And so I took her to the local tea place and we sat down and had a chat. I didn't bring anything, not a book, not a sample, not a nothing. I just wanted to meet with her. And I sat down, I started talking to her about some things, and she came up. I said something about something, and so somehow probiotics came up, and she started asking me about vitamins. And she said, well, yeah, we take a vitamin and a probiotic. We just take a whatever vitamin. And clearly she didn't know. But the point was that we had a nice chat, and I said, really, could I get a catalog to show you something? And she said, oh yeah, would you? And so I hopped out in the car and I got was in my car. You got to have that in your car. But we had a nice little chat for about an hour, and I sent her the health print, and she sent me a note in the mail. It said, dear Pam, thank you for reaching out to me. I enjoyed our time together, and I look forward to many more chats. Love, Donna. And she's put a quote at the bottom, and she said, the great thing about new friends is that they bring new energy to your soul. And I think that's just so true. And it just happened to me last week. And we've had a great conversation. And I followed up with her after health print. She goes, yes, I want to order the stuff sooner rather than later. And she placed a $220 order and wants it now. And I told her she was on my chicken list, and I said, I've been really afraid to talk to you, and I just didn't know you, and I'm so glad you came. And I just told her the truth. Like, you got to be open and love on people. And she's so happy we're friends because we're honest. I just kind of encourage people to just
nice story. It's a very nice story.
Try it with your chicken list. Try it.
Thank you. I love the story. All right, Colette, you have a couple of quotes you found here.
Yes. So these just ring true to me too. So just the fact that people do business with people because they choose to, not because they have to. And that they can always find someone else doing the same thing or selling the same product. But it's the personal connections we make with people that make the difference.
Excellent.
And just also that I think, especially in today's world, we all just need to learn to be more human and don't avoid eye contact with people. Don't hide behind our cell phones. Smile. Listen or ask questions and listen to them. So I just enjoyed both of those.
Lovely. Very, very nice. Thank you, Colette. These are great.
You're welcome.
So we're getting tight on time, but Kristen wants to whip through a couple of other examples real quickly. Go ahead, Kristen.
Sure. And, somebody alluded to the last week's session about social media, and I highly encourage you, if you've not listened to that one, please go back, because these are going to be a couple examples that we're just going to run through, but we're not going to talk about the details because it's all in session 2. But when you're making posts and when you're doing things on social media, make them your own, make them interesting, get creative, be personal. Notice this says, you probably can't take your eyes off my cute kids to see my gleaming floors. Never mentions, you don't see any product in this picture, right? Never mentions their website. Here's the link to buy this. No. Okay. All you're doing is sharing a glimpse and then saying, hey, by the way, learn more about this on this cool event that's coming up. And I love that.
And humor always works. That's just a really good one. Okay.
And then the next one, who's that cute girl? We just love that. But you know why we love that? Because that's Francine being Francine. And she is always happy and smiling and energetic. And she has a little bit of team spirit. And, I just really feel like this is another one. There's no blazing Shackley message here. It's, hey, would you like one? And here's why it might be interesting to you. See, it's not a stock photo. It's not hey, come to my house so I can sell you some Shackley. This is, I'm having fun. I found this great thing, and all I would love to do is share it with you.
Very nice. That's a great one. Oh gosh.
Totally great. Okay, and then invitation tips. You can run through this on your own. But my favorite thing on this whole slide is, obviously having conversations and how to do it, but let them know that the focus and the education is focused on them. And then this bullet point here. This is not a typical sales party. And you know how often I tell people that they don't even have to bring their pocketbook, and they look at you like, what? Because that's so unusual. And you guys, that's what makes us stand out. We are unique. We are interested in people, not in selling product. And then this is so wonderful. This is a great example. And the things that stood out to me in this actually is the very last thing where it says children are welcome to attend. Those of us who have school-age children, that's always a big hang up is, can I bring my kids, or do I need to find a sitter? And so anytime you can include children on your events is a wonderful idea for your guests. I love that it says safe, non-toxic, and green cleaners, but look what it says after that. That save you lots of money. Well, who isn't interested in saving money? And then, I love this healthy snack idea for children with tips from our very own Lauren Breeden. That's bringing in that third party. Anytime you can bring in somebody that brings a different type of spin on your event is always going to draw more attention.
Very nice. Great. So we have action steps at the end of this session. Francine, walk us through if you would.
Sure. Well, let's just figure out some things that kind of really spoke to you. You got a lot of ideas tonight about different types of activities that might be of interest to somebody once you know what their needs are. So think about some of those that really excited you, and then we could start setting up appointments and times and activities to invite people to, using the principles that we just discussed. So that permission marketing, that reaching out to them based on what their needs are. It's okay to write down what you want to say. It's okay to ask your upline what he or she would say, and then put that into your own words, though, because you don't want to sound scripted. You don't want to sound insincere. You want it to be you speaking, but it's okay to have a list, especially when you're calling some of those people on your chicken list. A working folder, or having a planner, or a card catalog, whatever it is you use, that is a great thing to have. Not only a list of people's names, but why you're thinking of them, because you don't want to have just 10 people on your total list and inviting that same 10 people to every single event. You want it to be very specific, again, based on what their needs are and what their interests are. So if Mary is getting really burnt out on the skincare she's been using since she was 12, and you've got an LYL event coming up next month, well, guess who you should probably invite? Mary, because she already told you that she's getting tired of her skincare. A calendar is a great idea. Many of us work with active teams, and that's great, but if you don't have a team, make your own calendar. Fill in the events that you're wanting to do. Go back and look at that chart that Barb shared with you earlier in this presentation with some of the average PV numbers that those types of things can generate. Look at what your goals are for the month and what activities interest you and what the expected PV is, and start plugging in those events and then those names to invite. And it's also a great idea to keep your goals in front of you. And I'm old school. I use a calendar still, a paper calendar. I don't use my phone. So each week I flip a page, but I transfer my goal over to the next page. So I always know it's right there in front of me. I know if I'm on track. I know if I need to increase my activity. I know if I have, maybe I've gone over my goal and I've got some time to love on people, do some thank you notes, that kind of thing. But when your goal's right there in front of you, it keeps you excited, it keeps you motivated, and it keeps you moving.
Excellent. And you want your weekly goal, your monthly goal, and your 90-day goal, so that you know what you're doing every single day, what the activity will be, and what you're generating. Excellent. So thank you, training team, tonight. Our next session is going to be on communication skills. A little bit, we've been tucking them in. These last couple of sessions, we'll give it to you all in a package next week. And then we're going to be talking about the all-important topic of identifying our business partners. And we'll be having Harper Guerra is going to be joining us for that. And I believe Becky Choate, who is also a new executive coordinator. Harper is a new master coordinator. We'll be talking about how we begin to assemble our team of business partners. I will make a document like I did before of each of these slides, put them on a document, so you will have those posted along with the archive at betterfuturestartstoday.com. Forget those things which are behind you, reach for those things that are before you, and press toward the mark of your highest calling. That's a good place to close. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for recording this for us and editing it and getting it archived so we can use it for the future. See you all next week. Over and out, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.